ladies and gentlemen, don't touch the remote. I got my guest today is a fill-in because Judge Greg Scott was scheduled to be here, but he got called out on an emergency. And so my good friend here, who is works for Family Services and comes to my house a couple of days, 3 days a week, and sort of helped me out for an old man, 93, you know. It get a new program where they come in and help out a little bit. And but what's interesting about my guest today is the fact that he was street learned. Like myself, I was a police officer, and I learned a lot on the street being a patrolman. And he learned a lot growing up in Philadelphia and then becoming a guard in a Philadelphia prison, and one of the toughest prisons in Philly. So I don't want to take up too much time to tell you. I want you to meet my guest today, my man, as they say in Madison Square Garden, in this corner. Tell him who you are, Rock.
My name is Joe Boatright.
Who?
Joe Boatright.
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 Yeah, right. Now,
yes.
Tell me something about yourself. You were born in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Right?
Born in Philadelphia, attended Catholic High School in Philadelphia, Temple University in Philadelphia. I've done a few things.
Yeah.
For a good part of my adult life, I worked in the jail.
And you work in the gym or something now? What, exercise or what?
A little something, but...
you don't exercise. You just open the place or door to people to come in.
I do a little of everything.
Oh, you do too?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sure.
Maybe I'll be your manager. Want to get a couple fights? I'll get you a fight.
I'm a little
the heavyweight
old for
division.
That. I'm a little old for that. I am a father of 4 and grandfather of 10. My oldest son's 39 years old, Hank.
Yeah.
For a good part of my adult years, I worked in the jail. I worked at Holmesburg Prison.
What was the name of it?
Holmesburg.
Holmesburg.
In Northeast Philadelphia. I worked in the jail for a lot.
That's still open?
No, Holmesburg is closed. And they opened up a new jail. McCurran Fromhold is on State Road. They closed one and opened up another.
Oh, is that the one they do in Halloween or something?
No, that's Eastern State. That's Eastern State Prison.
Oh.
The Philadelphia penitentiaries that are open are on State Road in Northeast Philadelphia. You have the House of Correction. You have the Philadelphia Detention Center. You have PIC, which is the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. And you have Curran Fromhold. So there are 4 jails on State Road in Northeast Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, were you working there when there was prison reform? They come in with a prison reform. Is that a big name or?
Yeah, that's just a big name.
Big name. What do you think of the way it is now, the prison system? You think if you were head of the prison system in Pennsylvania, what do you think would be some of the things you want to change?
Well, it's not about changing the prison system itself. It's what's happening now is you'll see that a good number of folks that are incarcerated for whatever reason, whether it's murder, rape, robbery, whatever, I think that narcotics or substances play a big role in those things.
Big role, yeah.
Whether it's alcohol and or drugs, play a big part in people getting,
You think that leads to
and incarcerated.
Drugs?
Well, it's a combination. Alcohol is a drug.
Yeah, alcohol and drug, yeah.
They're both the same as far anything that takes you outside of yourself.
Right.
Is a drug in my book.
Yeah.
So
now you've had some celebrity prisoners there. Can you remember any celebrities?
No, I've had. Holmesburg was a maximum security institution, and anybody who was anybody
was there
in the 80s and 90s when I was in the jail has come through that institution.
Well, when somebody send to prison for doing something wrong, and when they're in the prison they do something wrong, what's a scoop? Would they have a different?
There's a
they get a little trial, or
they have
something?
A hearing just like you would have if you got locked up on the street. And if you're found that you are responsible for doing anything that's against the rules, then there's some sanctions that are imposed, whether they put you in a segregated community, whether you're locked down in your cell for a few, there are some sanctions that are imposed. There is a possibility that you could put some extra time on whatever your mandate is. So there's some sanctions. So you just can't go in and get locked up and do what you want to do in the jail.
You have any experience on something got out of whack, out of line?
Oh,
When you do that. Now, another thing, a lot of people don't realize you don't carry a gun or a stick or anything when you're in the prison, right?
Not
the
at all.
guards.
The only people that have firearms are those people that are working on the perimeters and in the towers.
On the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Not inside the jail for obvious reasons. If I had a firearm inside the jail, something can happen. You could be overpowered, and they take the firearm, and then you have havoc.
Yeah.
But I've been involved in a riot in the jail.
They had a couple of bad riots in Philadelphia prisons. Yeah.
Yeah, I was involved in a riot in 1989 in the jail, where I was injured, along with a whole host of folks. And if I can say, it was probably the only time that I can remember being scared in my life.
Yeah, I remember when I was with Norristown Police, we every once in a while the guards might be a little bit short or something. Maybe somebody called off sick, and they had a problem with the prisoner wouldn't come out of the cell, and they would ask us to come in and assist them. That's a tough job. That's a tough job.
All jails have a response team that addresses such issues. If there's a problem in a specific area in the jail, inmate in his cell or out of his cell in a certain part of the jail, there's a response team in that institution that is, supposed to respond and quell whatever goes on.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the experience you had that you can think of to say, well, this was something different?
Well, I've stopped and escaped. I've seen people that have committed suicide. A whole host of things that can change an individual.
Well, a lot of suicides in the prison, and hang themselves or what?
Absolutely, I've seen
we
that.
went in there was hanging.
Yeah, I've seen those type of situations. I've seen assaults, a whole host of things that a kid, and I was a young guy when I started working in the jail, and some of those things that are new to you, even though I came from Southwest Philadelphia, seeing some of that stuff firsthand can change you.
Yeah. When you're in prison, did you anybody you knew that come in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, I was not from the suburbs, but I saw a lot of folks that I had encountered from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Some folks that I might have went to school with or whatever.
They say, "Yo, Joe." Joe.
Well, and
you got to be level.
Yeah, but it does happen, and you feel for those people, but you still have a job to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. When I was a policeman, don't forget, when I got a job as a policeman in Norristown, we didn't go to any school or anything. They just put me right out in the street, give me a gun and a badge and a nightstick, and put me out in the street with no training whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole different ball game now. The police are educated. They go to school. They got a college degree, and same thing with the prison. The prison has a lot of changes. From the time you started, was the changes going on while you were there to improve it, or does anybody ever check and see maybe we should change this or something?
Well, one of the major changes that happened during that period of time for me is in 1985, I was the first male that had a female partner in a man's jail.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that I had my housing area under control, and the administration.
You had a certain section taken care of.
Well, I worked the housing area.
Yeah.
And I had my area under control, and they instituted females working in the male's jail, and that was in 1985. And I was the first male that had a female partner back then.
Yeah.
For a minute. It was an experience. It was an experience because it was something new. And you know, guys are going to show off for women regardless.
Yeah.
You know, so it was something that was something new, and it took some getting used to.
Yeah.
But now I would venture to guess that there 35% of the 35% to 40% of the officers in the male's jail are female, at least in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's not a big deal now.
Well,
But back in the 80s, it was.
In your prison, it was all men, all
Men,
no,
all the
no
inmates
women.
were men.
Right. You have any women guards?
That's what yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you said that.
Yes.
Women
Yes.
guards.
Yes. I was the first to have a female partner at Holmesburg Prison.
And I remember Philadelphia police, they were tough on women police officers, but finally they got them. You know, they didn't think they should.
And you know,
have 'em. But now they have them.
Yes.
In fact, they're chiefs of police and mayors and
and the
almost
novelty wears
the
off.
president, but you didn't make it.
The novelty for that wore off after a minute, and now, even though there are a lot of female officers in the male institution, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, you're a great fight fan, right? and I was a former boxer and referee, and I talked to you, and you're like a walking encyclopedia. You remember all the fighters used to fight out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia was a great fight
absolutely.
town. You know, at the Philadelphia Arena, Convention Hall, the Braina, Cambria. You know, there's so many, you know, boxers in Philly, and you're one of your favorites was Muhammad Ali, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you to do something that I don't care if you forget the words or anything, but Muhammad Ali, I have a picture with he came into the ring and caused a problem of grabbing the mic from Dave Sinkoff, the announcer, and I had to throw him out of the ring, grab him, wrestling, you know, and it was all in fun, and he was great for poems, you know, with and he had one poem that you recited a couple of times, and I said,
gee.
I love it. Let me hear it.
I have an album from when I was a kid. Before he fought Sonny Liston, he made an album on Columbia Records, and it was entitled "I Am the Greatest." And that was before he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. It was "I Am the Greatest" by Cassius Clay.
That's before the Fraser or after the Fraser
No,
fight?
before Sonny Liston.
Oh, Sonny Liston.
This
Okay.
was in 1964.
And then this is about Sonny Liston.
Yeah. Clay comes out to meet Liston, but Liston starts to retreat. If he backs up an inch farther, he'll end up in a ringside suite. Clay swings with a left. Clay swings with a right. Look at young Cassius carry the fight. Clay swings with a right. What a beautiful swing. The punch knocks Sonny Liston clear out of the ring. Now Sonny's still rising, but the referee wears a frown, because he can't start counting till Sonny comes down. Who would have thought when they laid down all their money that they would have witnessed a total eclipse of the Sonny? Ding, 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 unring that bell, I'm not finished. No, but it just goes on and on, stuff like that, and I...
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, yeah, it was a great piece. And that was one of the things that attracted me to him. They called him the Louisville Lip back then. And, you know, he always had one-liners, he always had rhymes, and, you know, that's that kind of stuff that attracted a lot of folks to him.
Yeah, I had an opportunity when Dundee was his trainer, Angelo Dundee, and my brother Tony was managed by Dundee. And I called him and I said, I'd like to watch Muhammad work out. He was trained up in Deer Lake, up in near Reading, for a fight training camp. And I went there with my wife and my son, And he trained. After he trained, we had lunch. We're sitting at the table with his father and his manager, trainer, advisor, and he telephone on the telephone talking. Come on, everybody, eat. Come on. You don't eat, otherwise the government's going to take all the money from me. So eat it up. And he was so friendly. So I told my wife, I says, look, he just got finished training. Don't ask any questions because he's always being asked. TV guys, radio guys, newspaper. So relax now, okay? Okay. So we're sitting there, all of a sudden my wife says that, Muhammad, I read in the paper where you don't like to get hit. He looked with his big eyes opened up. He said, who's going to hit this pretty face, Oh, man. I said, shut up. But he was so, I didn't care for him too much in the beginning. But when I saw him, I sit down, I hear him talk just making phone calls and don't have to call a meeting to make a decision. He would make a decision. So that's the kind of guy I like.
Gone but never forgotten.
But I want to say the reason why I'm wearing these glasses is I'm a former professional boxer. I only had a black eye one time, and now I did a little surgery over here, and I got a black eye. So you want to get a little closer to looking at it. So I wear it because if I don't wear these glasses, everybody will be looking this eye, and you won't listen to what I'm talking about. So, all right, now, you come to my house, and you help me. You're like a friend, a companion, talk, and tell me about family service.
Well, what I do, I was looking for a way to give back because I see senior days on my horizon. And I got involved with Family Services. They have a program, it's Senior Companion. And I volunteer to hang out with you and some other folks and maybe run an errand for you, or take you on an errand, or just sit and talk.
Right.
And it's a good way for folks to get an outlet like yourself.
Right.
Because believe it or not, there are a lot of folks that have nobody to interact with. And in my mind, it leads to that individual's decline. So if I think that I can make a difference in even a minute manner and help somebody, it makes me smile. So that's what I do.
Well, as you get older, I used to be able to pick up the phone and talk to one of my brothers and say, look, hey, not there. They're up in heaven. And the older you get, the less people that you knew are not around. You can't call somebody up and start talking about the good old times. So when I sit down and talk to you, you remember different fights. You remember fighters. And I remember I refereed this fight or something, And I know I go into the rest homes, nursing homes, and sometime with Dean Garofalo when he sings and all. But, it just to say hello, just talking, it means so much because sometimes they sit there for hours and hours and not talk to anybody, mm-hmm. but just have somebody say, hello, hey, how you doing, shake hand or do something,
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot. And I think that the different agencies like that assist. So I appreciate the fact that you come around. Now, you want to sing a little song?
Oh, Hank, I really
every
don't
once in a while we're
sing.
sitting in the living room at my house, and he starts singing. I said, I got to go put on a show. Maybe a little Christmas song, right?
You put me on the spot.
What do you think? Something easy.
Hang all the mistletoe. I'm gonna get to know you better this Christmas, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together. This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me.
Very good.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, right? Yeah. So, You have other people you go visit, right? And then you have an exercise place where you work out,
Yeah,
and
you
you're
know,
in charge.
I'll tell you, some years ago I had my knees replaced multiple times, and at some point, I was paying a lot of money for physical therapy, but I recognized that the exercises didn't change, so I decided to join a gym. And matter of fact, I go to a couple of gyms, but it gave me an outlet, gave me the opportunity to start working out on my own and to meet some people and to socialize, and it's working for me.
Yeah.
I think the older you get, and I recognize this now, the older you get, it's so very, very, very important to be as active as you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be mistaken for Mr. Universe or anything, but I'm in a lot better shape than I was at one time.
Yeah. Well, what you do is you make people comfortable. I think, and when you're comfortable, you're kind of happy.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I think,
Mm-hmm.
And singing, you come to my house and we sit there and you start singing. That just makes a friendly atmosphere. It's music, just like Lawrence Welks would say, "Keep a song in your heart." But Joe, I'm going to ask you a question now. I ain't going to do like talk to people on the street, in some restaurant, shopping center. What advice can you give a youth to kind of make him think before he does anything wrong? And what happens in the prison from the time you enter? When you get in there, you have to take off your clothes and all. What's the procedure?
Let me say this. Not even talking about the prisons, because a lot of stuff goes on before a person would get that far. What I found is that if a young man or woman compares themselves to themselves and stops comparing themselves to others, they will be all the better for it. More times than not, when you decide or put yourself in a situation that compromises you and could possibly land you in one of those institutions, there's some pressure coming from somewhere else. And I believe that if you stop comparing yourself to somebody else,
Yeah.
and dealing with yourself as yourself,
Right.
You can see some growth and where you've come and how far you've come. As opposed to putting yourself in a situation that you'd be sorry for, And I know that life itself is trial and error, and we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. And nobody is infallible, and the difference between a lot of folks that are or have been incarcerated and those who aren't, sometimes it's a lot of luck.
Oh.
But it's so very important to kind of learn from your mistakes, and I'm saying that based on my own experience, because at some point I wasn't envious of anyone. I had to find a way to compare me to me. And when I started comparing me to me, I could see how I've grown, or maybe some steps that I have to take to make some advance, and it's all about me. And see, a lot of times people can tell you what they're doing or where they've gone, or they can promote themselves verbally, but the attraction is nonverbal. There is a certain nonverbal communication. It could be just posture. A person has the ability to stand up, look up, and speak up for themselves. That to me is attractive.
Yeah.
When a person is kind of in the middle of a crowd and they're going along with their buddies or friends, they're just a product of that environment. So and I thank God that I and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was the poster child for fatherhood, but I have 4 children that turned out to be decent adults.
Good.
And thank God that, and I'll say this in front of their faces and behind their back, thank God that they had mothers who were decent women.
Well, you know, when I headed the juvenile division, we had kid would be involved in something, and then I'd always try to give them before they would get a juvenile record, before he was adjudicated delinquent. You know, I would tell them, you know, don't get a juvenile record because later on in life, you know, you're going to have to show that record. You go there with a juvenile record and you go for a job, they're going to give it to the guy that don't have a record, you know. And my mother told me one time, says, get a board, and every time you do something bad, you put a nail in there, in the wood. You put a nail right in the wood. And every time you do something good, you take the nail out. But the hole's still there. So don't do anything wrong. Do what's right, and everything will be all right.
But you
right?
know, let me say one more thing, you know, because it's not to discourage those people that have tripped and fell or made some mistakes, because
It's all right.
you listen, you can grow from stuff. You can, if, like right now, I could go down the street and I know that there's a hole in the middle of the block. You know, I may trip and fall over that hole today, but if next time I know it's there, I'm gonna walk around it.
That's right.
So it's nothing I can do about what has transpired or what has happened to me. What I can do is be the best person that I can be today, and if I do that, tomorrow's gonna take care of itself.
That 30 minutes is over, so thank you, and may God bless each and every one for allowing us to come into your home. And Merry Christmas, everybody. I know this is after Christmas, but forget about it. Okay, thank you. God bless.